In this tutorial, we'll be going over how you can take individual objects and create spray patterns from them using Inkscape. And the example I'll be using in this demonstration are these leaves here that I've downloaded from Pixabay. I'll put a link in the description of the video to where you can download these if you want to follow along with what I'm doing. Just make sure to download the SVG copy and then ungroup them by going to Object and selecting Ungroup so that you have individual objects here. If you don't want to download these images, then you can try this with virtually anything you want, whether it be a shape or a logo or even an image. So to get started, I'm going to select my objects or object, however you want to do this, and I'm going to come over here to the spray tool. You can access it in the toolbar, or you can access it by pressing the letter A on your keyboard. And the settings I'm going to use for this tool up here in the top of the screen, first of all, I want to make sure I'm spraying clones. I'm going to set the width to 15 starting out. I'm going to set the amount to 100, rotation 100, scale 70, scatter 100, focus 100, and then I want these three options enabled right here. And once you have all of those settings in place, you can start spraying the objects on your canvas, as you can see here. And just like that, I am creating a spray pattern from these objects. So I'll fill in my area here. And the good thing about doing this as clones is that if I go back to my select tool, I can increase the size of the leaves in the pattern by increasing the size of the original leaves. So if I scale this up, you can see that these leaves become bigger, as you can see there. And it works the same way in reverse as well. I can scale this down and then the leaves become smaller. Okay, so let me undo everything I did there. Let me show you what else you can do with these settings. With my object selected, I'll go back to my spray tool. If you notice over here, I have rotation set to 100. If I set that to 0, and then I set scale to 0 as well, rotation represents rotating the objects as they're sprayed. So if I set that to 0, they won't be rotated at all. And if I set the scale to 0, there won't be any variance in size between them. So if I have those both set to 0, you can see I can spray them straight across, just like that. Now let me undo that. Let me put these settings back to where they were. Now, if you come over here, you'll notice I have this setting enabled called Prevent Overlapping Objects. This makes it so that when you're spraying the objects, they're not overlapping. So if I disable that and I start spraying the objects, you can see we get much more density as we spray. Okay, so I'm going to enable this setting once again. Now, if you notice over here, we have another setting, Apply Over Transparent Areas. Let's say I just want to apply my clones over the canvas here, or this rectangle that I've created. If I turn off this setting, it'll spray the copies only over other objects, as you can see me doing here, so that it won't be sprayed over the transparent areas. Now, I'm going to fill this in. Now, if you notice, this isn't exactly perfect. There is a little bit of overlap here. So if this is the desired result, you'll have to go through here and move these back in individually, but it shouldn't be too much work. It does a pretty good job and gets it close enough as it is. And then one final setting I'd like to demonstrate here is up here in the tool settings. I'm going to turn off the overlap. And this time I'm going to make it so that it only sprays over transparent areas. So I'm going to enable this setting and I'm going to disable this setting right here that says apply over no transparent areas. And I'm going to spray it over the letter A here that I have on my screen. And if you notice, it's spraying over the transparent areas, but not exactly over the letter itself. Now, as you can see, like with the other setting, there is a little bit of overlap there. So this isn't exactly perfect, but it does look close enough. So I'm going to fill this in a little bit. And now what I can do is I can go to my select tool and I could take this letter and move it out of the way. And now you can see it filled in the areas around the letter. So it kind of looks like there's a letter A made up of the negative space between these leaves here. And again, the good thing about doing this as clones, I could take the original objects, I could scale them up a little bit to make it look a little more dense. And now that looks even better. So that's just one example of how you can use the spray tool in Inkscape. If you found this lesson useful, then consider checking out my Inkscape Masterclass. It's a collection of over 60 videos where I go over all of the tools and features in Inkscape, and I explain what they are and demonstrate how they work. Kind of like how I did in this video. We even have a private community where you can ask questions and get help from me anytime you want. And best of all, there's no monthly membership fees. You just pay $17 one time and you're in for life. I'll have some information about that down below if you want to check that out. As always, thanks for watching.